The bakery's corner booth was too big for a girl sitting alone. A single candle burned in the middle of a small frosted cake, its flame trembling every time the cafe door opened. Outside, the December wind scraped against the glass, and inside, customers cast fleeting glances, then looked away. She couldn't be more than 17, her dark hair falling loose around pale shoulders, her chair drawn up tight against the table because her body was bound by a wheelchair. Her lips pressed together as if she'd practiced smiling in the mirror, but the edges quivered. The cake was untouched. The sprinkles looked too bright, too festive for a girl who sat alone on her birthday. And then a man with a worn leather jacket and a little boy clutching his hand paused, their eyes meeting hers. He cleared his throat softly and asked, almost hesitant, "May we join you?" The girl's name was Isabel. She was the only daughter of Daniel Crane, a powerful CEO whose name was etched across glass towers downtown. But his daughter's life wasn't made of glass and steel. A spinal injury from a car accident 2 years ago had stolen her ability to walk, and more silently it had stolen her circle of friends. People who once fought for her attention now sent half-hearted messages or none at all. Tonight her father was stuck in a late meeting, his assistant had ordered the cake to be delivered here, and Isabel, still determined to celebrate, rolled herself to the bakery. She had told herself she would be fine, but fine felt very small in a room filled with laughter she wasn't part of. The man who'd spoken was Mark. His beard was patchy, his hair tucked under a hood that looked older than the boy's age. His son, Tyler, gripped his hand with the fierce instinct of a child who knew life could snatch things away without warning. Mark's sneakers were split at the seams, the laces frayed, and the jeans he wore were stiff from too many washes and too little soap. Isabel noticed the duct tape stretched across the boy's backpack like a clumsy scar. Mark noticed the small unlit candle in front of her. She blinked, caught off guard. "It's just me," she said, her voice light but cracking. "That's okay," Mark replied, guiding Tyler forward. "Sometimes a birthday's better shared, if you don't mind." Something about his tone, gentle, without pity, loosened the knot in her throat. She gave the smallest nod. Tyler climbed into the booth, his knees poking through holes in his sweatpants, but his grin wide and unashamed. "Wow," he whispered, staring at the cake as if it were gold. Isabel chuckled softly. "You like sprinkles?" "Yeah," Tyler's voice carried. He pressed closer to the table, eyes shining. Mark, embarrassed, murmured an apology. "Sorry, he hasn't seen... Well, it's been a while since..." He stopped himself, clamping his jaw. Isabel tilted her head. "Since cake?" Mark rubbed the back of his neck. "Since a lot of things." The waitress passed by, setting down another cup of coffee on the counter. Mark's eyes lingered for a moment. He didn't order one. His wallet was in his pocket, but she could almost hear the clink of coins inside. Isabel had seen that look before, at shelters she'd visited with her father during Christmas drives. Parents measuring the weight of hunger against the weight of pride. "Maybe..." Isabel pushed the cake forward an inch. "Maybe you could help me eat this." "I can't finish it by myself anyway," Mark hesitated, then let out a quiet breath. "Thank you." For a few minutes it almost felt like 3 ordinary people in a booth. Tyler clapped when Isabel blew out the candle. She laughed, and the sound startled her. She hadn't heard her own laugh echo that freely in months. Mark watched, his expression softening, though shadows of exhaustion dragged beneath his eyes. But then, like a stone skimming across calm water, tension rippled in. The cafe door opened, and 2 girls from Isabel's old school walked in. Their glossy hair and fitted jackets caught the light as they breezed past. One of them glanced at Isabel, whispering something to the other, their laughter sharp as glass. Isabel's hand stiffened on her lap. She tried to hide it, but Mark noticed. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded quickly, eyes darting down. "Yeah, just..." They used to be friends. Mark's jaw tightened. He glanced at Tyler, who was humming quietly, smearing frosting across his plate with a plastic fork. Mark leaned closer to Isabel, lowering his voice. "Then they're the ones missing out." Isabel swallowed, her chest tightening. No one had said it that simply before, but before the warmth could settle, the rehook arrived. Daniel Crane's voice boomed across the cafe as he strode in, his tailored coat still flecked with sleet, his shoes polished like mirrors. His presence bent the air. Conversations hushed. He stopped at the sight of his daughter seated with a stranger in torn shoes. His eyes narrowed. "Isabel," he said sharply, stepping forward. What's going on here? Her fingers trembled against the table edge. She opened her mouth, but words tangled. Mark stiffened, protective instinct flaring. Tyler's fork clattered to the plate, his wide eyes shifting between the towering man and his father. The candle smoke still lingered in the air, but the warmth of the booth cracked, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Daniel's gaze sliced through the space between them. His daughter's wheelchair suddenly felt smaller, like she was shrinking inside it. Mark straightened, pulling Tyler closer. The boy clutched his duct-taped backpack as if it were armor. For a moment, no one spoke. The cafe lights reflected off Daniel's coat buttons, his posture so sharp it made the booth look shabby by contrast. Isabel's lips parted, her breath quick, but still no sound. Mark finally cleared his throat. We were just sharing the cake, sir. She was sitting alone. Daniel's brow tightened. His eyes lingered on Mark's frayed jacket, the boy's torn sneakers, then slid back to Isabel. You don't need strangers. You have family. The word family echoed in Isabel's chest, hollow. Family, but he hadn't been here. Family, but he worked until midnight and sent assistants in his place. She bit down hard on her trembling lip. Dad, they weren't strangers, she whispered. They sat with me. Daniel's throat flexed. Something softened in his eyes, but it hardened again when he noticed the smudges of frosting on Tyler's cheek. He leaned down, speaking low, his tone colder than the winter outside. Isabel, you don't understand. People like... But Isabel cut him off, her voice shaking but steady enough to slice. People like what? People who actually showed up? Silence. Even the waitress froze by the counter. Tyler lowered his fork slowly, watching with the wide-eyed caution of a child who'd seen adults break under pressure before. Mark's jaw clenched. Look, I don't want trouble. We'll go. He slid to the edge of the booth, but Isabel's hand shot out, trembling, her nails brushing his sleeve. No, she said, her breath unsteady but firm. Please, stay. Daniel exhaled, long and heavy, a man used to boardrooms, not daughters standing against him. His eyes lingered on her chair, the curve of her thin shoulders. The powerful CEO looked like a father for one flickering second, his throat tight with something he didn't say. Then Tyler spoke, small but clear. Mr. She was smiling before you came in. The child's words cracked something invisible. Daniel blinked hard, his jaw stiff. He straightened slowly, scanning the room. Every face pretended not to watch, yet everyone was listening. For once, he didn't have an audience of shareholders. He had witnesses of something more raw. He adjusted his coat and sat down opposite Isabel, his polished shoes brushing against Mark's worn sneakers. The contrast was painful to look at. He folded his hands. I'm sorry, sweetheart, he murmured, softer now. I just worry. Maybe too much? Isabel's throat caught. I wanted someone to eat cake with me, that's all. Mark stayed quiet, giving her the space. Tyler's small hand slid into Isabel's, unafraid of the chair, unafraid of the silence. Her chest loosened at the touch, Daniel noticed. He glanced at Mark, the wary lines around his eyes settling into something closer to respect. What do you do, Mr. Mark? Just Mark, he replied, his voice plain. Right now, deliveries when I can, construction if they'll take me. Lost my wife 2 winters ago. Still trying to keep things together for him. His hand brushed Tyler's hair, though the boy ducked playfully. The words landed heavy, even for Daniel. Widower, scraping by. Isabel studied Mark's face, the tiredness in it, but also the quiet resilience. She suddenly hated how invisible people like him were in her father's world of tinted glass and chauffeur doors. The waitress arrived, uncertain. Daniel waved her over. Bring them whatever they want. On my tab, Mark stiffened. That's not necessary. But Daniel cut in, his tone gentler this time. It is. Tonight it is. Food arrived. Grilled cheese for Tyler, coffee for Mark, a second slice of cake cut carefully for Isabel. The booth shifted from tension to something resembling warmth. Isabel caught her father glancing at her wheelchair once more. But this time his expression wasn't regret. It was recognition of her strength. Later, outside, sleet tapped the pavement. Isabel pulled her coat tighter as Daniel walked beside her, Mark and Tyler a step behind. At the curb, Mark hesitated. His car was nowhere, just the bus stop with its cracked glass shelter, Daniel noticed. He cleared his throat, awkward, and reached into his coat. Where do you live? Over on Maple, Mark said, cautious. Daniel handed him a folded paper, No, not paper, Isabel realized. A check. Mark froze, his hand trembling as he unfolded it. The amount was enough to cover months of rent. His lips parted, then pressed shut again, as if words weren't big enough for the weight of it. I can't take this, he stammered. You can, Daniel replied firmly. Because tonight you gave my daughter something money couldn't. You gave her presents. Mark's eyes burned. Tyler clutched his father's side, sensing the shift even if he didn't understand all of it. Isabel smiled faintly, her heart swelling. She felt seen, not pitied, not caged. As they parted ways, Daniel's sleek car pulling up, Mark guiding Tyler toward the bus shelter, Isabel whispered to her father, "You noticed him, didn't you?" Daniel glanced at her, startled. "That's all he needed," she said. "For someone to notice." Daniel's throat tightened. He nodded. "And maybe that's all you needed, too." The night closed around them, but something lingered in the air, the echo of a simple act, sitting down with someone who was alone. The kind of act that doesn't change the whole world, but reroutes a life. And in the quiet hum of the city, Isabel knew this birthday would never be forgotten.